So we were talking about the three explanations of Shivisi Avayla Negdi Samid. One explanation being the simple type that I place Havaya before me always. Another explanation is the Baal Shem Tovs, that when I have the level of Havaya in front of me, so then it's Shivisi, then everything is the same, then there's no differentiations, no differences between all the different levels, that all remains the same, because I have no desires, I have no personal agenda, if you will. And because I have no personal agenda, so everything is the same, good, bad, etc., etc. And then a third explanation is that we're talking about there's the level of shivisi of Havaya, there's the level of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke, being in a way of Hishtavus, the level that's beyond his chalkos, beyond the vision, and we have the level of Yud Ke Vav Ke to be in a way that's beyond the vision. So then you're reaching the highest level of Yud Ke Vav Ke. And then we started speaking about the divisions of the letters versus the divisions of the nekudas. So I want to start over on this page, on this print, from the words from Ois Beis. So again, on the new download that I sent you this morning, page 124, the first page of the download, we will begin from Ois Beis. But the idea behind it is how we connect all these three different perushim, the perushim, the hinne b'shem havaya, in the name Yud Ke Vav Ke, yesh inyan shel ischalkus. There's the idea of the vision. Hein haischalkus, the dal doises b'shem havayim, both the division of the four letters of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke, Shem Dalet Madreges, that these are four levels. Ve'hein haischalkus mitzad hanekudas b'shem havaya, and also the divisions that come about because of the vowel signs of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke. So in other words, there's the divisions, just the different letters. There's Yud, there's a Hey, there's a Vav, there's a final Hey, and also the different ways how they could be placed vowels in it. Like we find also in the Siddur Dalter Rebbe, Shebechol Barach, in every brach, especially in Shemoneh, every single bakosh, every single request, Nitva Shem Havaya ben Nikud Shoina. So Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke is printed with a different type of set of vowel signs. Ben Nikud Kametz, Ben Nikud Pasach v'chulu, in a Kametz vowel sign or a Pasach vowel sign, because every type of bracha indicates a different type of amshacha, and it indicates different levels of revelation, as we will explain. Shekol Nikud Moira al Sir Amshacha the Shem Havaya b'ifnach. Every set of vowels indicates on the form of the drawing down of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke in a different manner than it's a different kind of nikud, than a different type of vowels. To note, the division that comes about because of the vowels. Eina his chalkos amitis. It's not a true division, like, for example, we're going to learn something new over what we learned yesterday concerning the embedding and enmeshing of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke in other names. For example, Shiluv Havaya Ba'adnai, the intermingling of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke and Shem Adnai, or Shiluv Havaya B'Elakim, or the intermingling of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke with the name Elakim. In some Sephardi Sidurim, we see this, that Yud Ke Vav Ke may have in it the literal small letters of Aleph Daled Nun Yud, or it might have the other way around, that in Aleph Daled Nun Yud there might be the letters of Yud Ke Vav Ke. So over there, the Rebbe says, when there's the Shilug, when there's the enmeshing and embedding of Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke with other names of Hashem, so that is a real type of division. Because when we're talking about the enmeshing and embedding of Shem Yudke Vovke, let's say, in another name like Adnai or Lakim. So the main thing is Shem Adnai or Lakim. The Shem Havaya Rak Meshulav Boy. And the name Yudke Vovke is only something that is embedded in it, and it's enmeshed in it. Meaning Shenimshach Umizgala Al Yodoi, that the Shem Yudke Vovke is drawn down and becomes revealed either through Shem Adnai or through Shem Elikim, etc. As opposed to the idea of the Nekudas of Shem Yudke Vovke, in all of them, what's primarily felt, what's primarily manifest, the level of Yudke Vovke. And yet, despite the fact that the main thing when we have the different nekudas that's felt Yudke Vavke, still in all, harigam inyan nekudas hu inyan shal ischalpos. Also, the idea of the nekudas, the vowel signs, is the idea of division between the Yudke Vavke. That's with a comments versus the Yudke Vavke becomes revealed through a pasuk, but it's Yudke Vavke. That's Yudke Vavke, the way it's revealed through a pasuk and through a comment. So he's going to explain about this type of divisions. This division is in all the levels of Shem Yudke Vavke. In general, the net levels of Shem Yudke Vavke, though we speak about throughout Seder Ishtalshlos, let's say there's Yudke Vavke that goes on the four worlds of Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah, so the Yud is Atzilus, Mekayas, and Bri, and so on. And then the Atzilus itself, there's Yudke Vavke, and then there's higher than Atzilus. But even though there's multiple levels where we speak about Shem Yudke Vavke, but in general, they are divided into two levels, Havaya de Lasata, Havaya de La'el, the lower level of Shem Yudke Vavke, and the higher level of Shem Yudke Vavke. Behind this means, Loi Miboy Shem Havaya de Lasata, not only Shem Havaya of below, meaning the lower level of Shem Havaya, Shebavadai, surely, Yesh by Yischalchus, there is divisions and separations in the lower level of Shem Yudke Vavke, being that it's a lower level, so therefore it's more readily applicable over there, the idea of division. Even the higher level of Shem Yudke Vavke, Yesh by Yischalchus, there is divisions between them. But Adrabim, even more so, in Yischalchus b'Shem Havaya Elam, the visions in the higher level of Shem Yudke Vavke is even more so than the Hashem Havaya Dolasata. This is a chiddush. Usually we say the lower something is, the more divided, which shows on limitation and constriction and so on. When you limit something, so then there's this part, it's complex, it's made up of different parts, it's made up of different divisions. Usually, as we go up higher in Seder Ishtalshlos, it is not so divisive. There's more unity, there's more oneness. So he says the other way around, that the division in the higher level of Shem Havaya is more than it's in the lower level of Shem Havaya. Kiven Shebmitzias Ha'oisias. Shem Havaya de La'elahi Nailis Yoiser, since the existence of the letters in Shem Havaya is a higher level of letters. In other words, what each letter of Shem Yudke Vavke indicates is of a higher stature. So, for example, the Yud can represent Atzilus and the Hey can represent Bria. But let's say a higher level of Shem Havaya, that the Yud represents Chachma Atzilus and the Hey represents Bina Atzilus, so then they are of a much higher level. Therefore, the division between the two letters of Shem Havaya, or the different levels of Shem Havaya, being that's much more powerful, Chachma Atzilus and Bina Atzilus and Midas Atzilus and Malchus Atzilus is a much greater and much more powerful level than, let's say, the worlds of Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah. So therefore, the distinctions between them in the world of Atzilus would be greater and more powerful than the distinctions between the world of Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah. Amnam, Yesh Bechinan Nailus Yoser B'Shem Havaya. There's an even higher level in Shem Havaya, which is what we were alluding to before. The Rebbe said, what does it mean, Shivisi Havaya? That he's making it equal in Shem Havaya, which is, I think, really a chiddush of this Maimer. The Rebbe, like what we spoke about yesterday, the Rebbe put together the simple meaning of Shivisi Havaya and the Summit, that I place Havaya before me always. And he says that Shivisi is talking about the person makes everything equal, the Baal Shem Tov explanation, because Havaya is Unegli Summit. And the Rebbe combines the two, that the simple meaning that Shivisi is referring to Havaya, and Shivisi is referring to the idea of equal, everything is equal. As in the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe puts it together that there is in Havaya the level of Hishtavus, that there is no division whatsoever. The level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei that has no division in it, it's considered one thing. That is the name Yud Kei Vav Kei that has no vowels to it. You say them as a she'ein by oisis klal, even more so, it has no letters in it whatsoever. What he means over here, has no letters, with Pashtus, doesn't mean that it doesn't actually have letters, but what it means is they are looked at as one entity, not divided into letters. Beforehand, we were talking about Yud indicates this, Hey indicates that, Vav indicates something else. Then there's a level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei where it's seen as one thing. It's not indicating different ideas and different concepts. It's one holistic thing that has no divisions of letters. It's just Havai. That's it. And where do we have the level of Shem Havai? What level of Seder Ishtalshus do we talk about Shem Havai being without divisions? The Inyan Zel, Shem Havai, this is in the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's prior to the Tzimtzum, or Bechlolos Yoser, and even more so, this is also applicable after the Tzimtzum, that the Shem Havai could be one entity, one block, without any type of divisions. Where after the Tzimtzum do we have the similarity to the before the Tzimtzum, where it's one block and not divided? In Shem Havai Shem Kesser, the idea of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei of Kesser. Now he's going to explain a little bit why that is so. Why in the level of Shem Havai of Kesser, it's one entity. It's not divided into different things. Kesser, who in our Kesser is the idea of will. By the Yidua, it's known the idea of will is in a way that everything is equal. That the will is in every place equally. In that same will, that he wants a lofty matter, he also can want something that is of a low level. And both, the will is in the same power. In other words, like this. Here we're talking about, as in many places in Chassidus, when we talk about the level of will, we are not talking about a will that's formed by reason, by intellect. When we're talking about will that's formed by intellect, so then the intellect directs and determines how much of my will, if you will be invested over here. So something that's great, that intellectually I understand is very worthwhile, more of my will be involved. Something that is less worthwhile, less important, less of value, that will be less of my energy involved in the will. But then there's the will of the essence of the person, and that will that comes from his very being. And over there, the will that comes from his very being, it doesn't matter if that will is something that is for something that's great or something that's small. You can see this by a child. A child can have a tantrum over a minor thing because the will is over there by the child in a pure state without it being tempered by intellect. Intellect plays no role in that will, and therefore the will is just as powerful for a minor thing as a major thing. because there's no distinction in the level of will. So therefore, since will, by its very nature, makes no distinctions, so therefore the same thing applies in Shem Havaya of Keser. Move on from this understood. Shagam Shem Havaya Shebekeser Uboifin Shel Shtabos. Also, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei that's in Keser is in the way that everything is equal. She'ein by his chalkas the inyan his nikud. It doesn't have the division of the idea of nekudas, of vowel signs. The Rebbe says we do see that there's a distinction, that in Keser we say that's the place where Havaya has the nekudas, the vowel signs of a kometz. Still in all, how a nikud kometz shebeshem zel nikud atzmi, the Rebbe doesn't really explain, like in many things in this mimer, very Kabbalistic. The nikud kometz over here is not like other vowel signs, but it's something of the essence, meaning since it's of the essence, there's no levels of divisions, even though there is nekudas. It can be likened to the same thing that we say that Shem Havaya could be beyond division and beyond letters, even though physically there are letters over there. Still in all, we don't look at the letters, we're looking at the wholeness of it. The same thing, the fact that Shem Havaya in Keser has a nikud kometz, the kometz is not meant to divide it and make distinctions, but the kometz indicates the essential level of the vowel sign. Whatever that level is, he doesn't really explain, but the main point is that it doesn't have any ischalfas. The ein boy, afilu iten ischalfas mitzad ha'oisis. Not only does the Hashem Havaya in the level of Keser not have the division that comes as a result of the different nekudas, of the different vowel signs, it doesn't even have the division that comes from and because of the different letters. And in this level, the level of Havaya in Keser, that's the true equality and similarity of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's in Keser, that's to be found Shivisi Havaya, that I've made Havaya equal, like the new taisha that Rebbe introduces. Since not only does the Shem Havaya of Keser not have the division that would have been caused by the nekudas, by the vowel signs, in addition to that not being divided, because the vowel signs, it doesn't even have the division that comes about through the letters, and therefore that's the level of Shivisi Havaya. That's the level where it's all equal and all the same. Any questions before we go on? I know this is very Kabbalistic, this mimer. You'll forgive me. But as we're going to go on, I believe it will get a little bit more down to earth eventually, not right away.
I have a technical question. So
okay.
What you just described is Ratzon, which encompasses everything? Is that what you're saying?
Ratzon is all over. Ratzon is equal all over, and that's why it's called the Ishtabas Shivisi. That's the same, the Shem Havaya of Keser. Because will, when we're talking about an essential will not the way it's tempered by intellect, is just as excited and just as wanting for a minor thing as a major thing.
And just briefly, how would you distinguish Ratzon from Netzach?
Netzach is more about persevering despite any types of obstacles, but there still could be a motivating factor. That perseverance can be based on intellect, or could be as a result of love, or could be a result of something else. We're talking here about pure will that is beyond that. Of course, Ratzon can lead to Netzach, but Netzach is not necessarily a direct offspring of Ratzon. It can be a result of intellect, it can be a result of midos, etc. Eis Gimel. Here, to explain this matter more specifically, it's brought down the Zohar. Lav reusin lav nehoirin, lav butzinin bahu ein sof. This means there is no will. Reusin is from the word will, raiva. Lav nehoirin, there is no lights. And there's no butzinin is like a candle in that ein sof. So now he's going to explain what are these levels over here. But the idea behind these three levels that the Zohar explains that there is not to be found in ein sof. It says the butzinin, which is neiros, the candles, hema kelim. We know that the candle, many Maimonides explains what actually is the candle. The candle is not the fire. The candle is the vessel that contains the fire. The let's say the container that holds the oil plus the oil and the wick, that is the neir. That's the kalim. Like it says, ki neir mitzvah v'toira oil. So we say that the mitzvah is like the vessel and the oil and the wick, and the fire, Torah, is like the fire on top. So there's no levels of the vessels in the Ein Sof. Not only is there no levels of the vessels in the Ein Sof, also the lights that are clothed in the vessels, which is called garmohi. All of this goes into the category of the body. As we know the expression that there is in Atzilus, it's that he's one with the life forces, he's one with the bodies. The vessels are considered the bodies, and they also include the oldest way they're already clothed in the body. Then there's the Zohar goes on and says Nahoirin. Nahoirin also don't exist. Nahoirin hena oides shalamaylam mislapshim bekelim. The lights are referring to that lights of the Sphira that are still transcendent and have not yet become enclosed in the vessels, known by a term, chayoy, of the phrase, so the oiros, the lights that are higher than becoming enclosed in the vessels, that's chayoy. That is also, he says, there is no nahoidin over there. Then, higher than this is the will. It is the will for the spheres. So really, we are going through the whole entire level of Atzilus, the Kalim of Atzilus, the Oidis of Atzilus, and even the Ratzon of Atzilus, meaning Kesed Atzilus. All of these things are not to be found in the Oidin Sof. Goes on to explain what is the idea behind it. In the level of the candles, that these are already the lights, the way they're already clothed in the vessels. Surely, since the lights are already clothed in the vessels, so part of what the function of the vessels do is they make a division between the oiris. Even the lights before they become enclosed in the vessels, it's the idea of the lights. There's already an idea of division because we're calling them oiros, not one oir. So it's already a distinction. The reusin, rotzen. What does it mean over here? The reusin, that the rotzen, the hainu kefisha spheres heim b'chinas hakesed. Here we are talking about not Kesser itself, but the way the spheres are part of Kesser. Sometimes they're known as Arich Anpin. Anpin is the faces going on the revelations of the spheres, like a face reveals what's going on inside. And the spheres, the way they are in Kesser, in a way are Arich. They are big. They're without a boundary. So the way the spheres are in Kesser, in other words, the level of Arich Anpin, that's the way they are part of his will. Although the general idea of the will is in a way that it's all equal, like we said before, still in all, it's not the true idea of purity and oneness, meaning it's not an idea of pure, non-complex, non-division, because it's the spheres, the way they are in Kesser. This is what the Zohar says. There is no, it's not the wills, it's not the lights, it's not the candles in that level of Ein Sof. The hein, this means shein sof l'maylam is chaltas l'gamri, that the ein sof is beyond the vision total. L'maylam is chaltas, to put sin in beyond the division of the lights, meaning the vessels and the oiris that's enclosed in the vessel. The gamma is chaltas l'nahoidin and os, beyond the vision of the lights and the oiris, the way they're enclosed already in the kalim. Ba'afilum is chaltas the rusin, it's beyond the division of the wills, the way the spheres are included in the level of will. Shem Shu being in a spheres, so just like it's in the idea of spheres. Kain who gambe in the Shem Avayit, Shashayach Lina spheres. So too, it's the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way it's connected and associated with the level of the spheres, that you also have this type of concept. Shari Shem Havayit b'milu'oi, the way Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei is written with its fillers, Hayesh by Eser Oisis Shem Keneged Eser spheres. It has in it 10 letters corresponding to the 10 spheres. Because when you write out phonetically the Yud, it's Yud Vav Daled. When you write out the Hey phonetically, it's either Hey Aleph, Hey Yud, Hey Hey. So that's already 5. Then you have, let's say, the final 2 of the final hey aleph or hey yud. Then you have vav. Vav is written out vav aleph vav. So that's another 3 plus 7. You have 10. So if you write out all the letters of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei phonetically, that's called with their miluyim. You have altogether 10 letters, and the significance of Shem Havaya having 10 letters corresponds to the 10 spheres, meaning yes, boy, that it has in it, and Shem Havaya, it has in it bechinas putzinin, it has the candles, which is the kalim and the oiris, where they're enclosed in the kalim. They have bechinas nahoidin, they have the level of the lights. In other words, the lights that are higher than becoming enclosed in the vessel. Fa'adla bechinas rusin, until the level of the will, shazel Indian, Shem Havaya Keser, that's the level of Shem Havaya that's in Keser, because that's the level of the spheres, the way they are standing in Keser. Though in general it's beyond the vision. It's not the true idea of pure non-complexity that's non-divided whatsoever. There's an even higher level of Shem Yud in Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei Shalamayla Gamba B'chinas Rusin, that it's even higher in the level of wills, lav ru'usi, that we say on it, that it's not a level of wills. In Shem Havaya, it's a level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hamevur B'Ginas Egos, that's brought down, explained in a certain Kabbalah sefer known as Ginas Egos. B'chinas HaYecholos, that's in a level of, called the level of the potential of the Ein Sof. That's beyond even the level of will. Will is already something that's already coming out and being expressed. Yecholos is still completely hidden within. It's only a potential. That's the level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei that has no letters in it. And this level is the true level of Shivisi Havaya. It's the true level of the oneness and the same in everything of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei that we're speaking about at the beginning of the mind. I know we're still in the middle of the ice. Let's stop over here. Anybody has any questions before we sign off?
The